Hatha Plus is what we're doing today, which simply means we're having a good blend of practices to begin with. Now, today you may need a block or maybe two if you want to place them on either side of your mat, if you feel this way inclined, just for safety. But one would be sufficient. And if you don't have a block, as we might practice a half moon shape, something else you could lean against, your water bottle or whatever you might have close by to sit on. Maybe a cushion would be good, and that's the place from which we're going to begin. So let us take a seat. And if you feel sitting on the floor is not yours, do what I do, cushion yourselves up. If that isn't okay for you today, you might even sit up in a chair. So the only thing we would like to do is finding our seat and eventually sitting up straight. So what does straight even mean? It just means the spine is basically in neutral. Now, as usual, I'm shuffling around, finding my sit bones and allowing myself to center over them. So just checking in with your base that you're building for yourself to sit on. Once you've done so, you might just allow the pelvis to tilt a few times, just gently forward and back. That could be a slight circular movement around the pelvic area as well. You might then take the movement up towards the shoulders and the shoulder blades, and you could draw those a little bit closer together and let them drift apart a few times. And please do stay with the awareness in the parts of the body that you are moving. And you could also move the head so you get a sense of how healthy or tense your neck might be. Also allowing the head to settle eventually, and then just moving all of the 10 fingers. Before you're resting your hands down, and please notice what happens when the palms are facing down versus to the palms facing up, as that might have not just an energetic impact on your body, but maybe also a postural impact. I've chosen my palms to face up today, and I would also like to introduce you to prana mudra. So we're working a little bit with the flow of energy today. It's basically making peace fingers. So sticking up your index and middle fingers as if they were peace fingers, and touching the tip of the thumb together with the tips of the pinky finger and your ring finger. And you can then rest that back down once you've got that. If it's available to you, you might want to close the eyes and let yourself sink into your seat, allowing a moment where you're just feeling, or you're noticing that you are actually seated now, that you're using and taking up space. That your hands are in a different to neutral position, and how that might feel. And then beginning to notice your breath. One of our main points of intake of prana and release of it as well. Prana, life force, our energy that allows us to move through the day. I will ask you from here to keep the awareness with the breath and to change your breath as you breathe into your abdomen, expand through the lower ribs and take the breath right up towards your collarbones. And when you're exhaling, let the belly come in, ribs releasing the upper chest, allowing the breath to escape. We'll stay with that full yogic breathing or 3-part breaths, belly, ribs, up to collarbones. And out again from belly to ribs to collarbones. Ujjayi technique, as usual, is very welcome and also welcome throughout the whole practice. Light narrowing of the air passage in the back of the throat. Oceanic sound that we might create by that. Without applying any changes quite yet, just noticing the rhythm of your breath and what you feel drawn towards. Drawn towards a longer inhalation, a balanced breath, or longer exhalation. And just noticing what it is your body is doing. This might give you an indication of where you are at and what you require too. We'll next work for a few rounds with a reset breath. So while we keep the breath that we've established by now, after the next inhalation, once that is complete, take another sip of air into your body. Pause momentarily at the top and then release the breath in that full yogic pattern as you're exhaling very slowly, constantly, smoothly. And the next in-breath comes, belly, ribs to collarbones. Then top up the breath with another sip of air. Pause if you like, if that feels good. And very, very slowly exhaling again. So we've added 2 things or even 3. After the inhalation, there's a top-up breath. Then there's a hold of breathing. And then there's a longer exhalation. As you continue that in your own breathing pattern for a few more rounds. And you completed your next full breath. Pause at the end of it. And observe yourself. The mudra might still be in your hands. To let go of the breathing pattern and come back to your natural breath. Then also relax your hands. And you might want to move through the fingers again. As if you're reshuffling them for the next one. Noticing how you're feeling after you've released the mudra as well. And beginning to take your fingertips slightly behind your back. You don't have to lean any weight there, especially if you're sitting on the block. I would ask you to draw the shoulder blades together from here, lift up through the sternum. And if your neck feels sore, as you might have worked this out, you can keep your gaze forward. If it doesn't, protract your chin, push it forward, and then slowly guide it upwards, which might lead to an extension into the throat area and a slightly deeper back bend. And to release that, release your lower back first and let the spine slightly round so the head can come up without any force. As you place your fingertips down in front of you now, it doesn't matter how deep you can go, just walking the hands a little bit forward as we release our straight seat, but maybe keeping your spine long for now, the shoulders back in their sockets, and a slight extension across the hip area, your lower back. If you are seated on a block or a cushion, you might now remove that, sit down onto the floor, and take your feet out in front of you. The hands go behind, again, just the fingertips resting on the ground. Sort of reaching for the space in between the sit bones, the feet, maybe even a little bit further than hip distance apart. And we will allow our knees to drop as we turn the gaze gently in the other direction. On the inhale, center head and knees. And on the out breath, drop to the other side, looking across. So as you inhale, center yourself. And as you're exhaling, go for a twist. Inhale, center. Exhaling, going for a twist. We'll do that once more to each side. And then when you center yourself next, there's a likelihood you forgot how you sat in the first place. So choose your natural seat and then crossing the legs back into Sukhasana, the easy pose. Now we bring our hands upon our knees. So it's not important that we're sitting straight. We go directly into a movement. So with your out breath, take your right shoulder forward and allow your spine to twist. As you inhale, come back to center. And now repeat that with the left shoulder coming forward, turning the upper body. We'll do that once more to each side. Just that, a little twist, more so in the upper body. A pause in the center just for a moment. Closing the eyes if that is comfortable for you. I will throw a Sanskrit word at you that is Brahmacharya. That is the fourth yama or guideline for living. It suggests celibacy in its old translation. And if we look at it in a more modern way, we might see it as moderation. So hence why I asked you to pause, as you might want to increase the range of the movement now. But looking at yourself as you practice today and noticing where do you need moderation rather than pushing forward or completely resting. So finding that space within the practice that lies in the middle. So as you're next exhaling, either draw your right shoulder forward again or choose to draw it forward and downward as you're turning your gaze over the left shoulder. And with the inhale arriving back in the center, and then the left shoulder moves down and forward. Unless you're still in the first movement, let's repeat that again as we take a twist. Inhaling, sitting, and exhaling, twisting again. Now, if you feel you could go even further, place the hands down in front of you and lean down really deeply as you're turning your gaze. Inhale, still lifting through your spine. And when you're breathing out, twisting again. Inhale to lengthen. Exhaling to lean in and twist. Inhale to lengthen. And exhaling, we're doing that again. Now, while you come to the center here, breathe in. And as you exhale now, let your hands walk or slide forward. And now you could even round your back and allow the back to surrender. As you slide or walk your hands back, circle them around you and place the fingertips again behind your back, stepping your feet out in front one more time. So let us begin with the squeeze into the shoulder blades, planting the hands down or your fists down. And if this feels good, you could push your chin forward again, guiding it up and letting the head extend backwards. If you're happy here, stay here. Otherwise, ground through the feet, squeeze into the buttocks muscles and lift your hips up for a tabletop. Before you're slowly releasing your hips back down. Letting the soles of the feet now touch together lazily in front of you. Release the hands and reach the hands forward as you're inhaling. Now, as you're exhaling, row back with fists, maybe lifting the feet off the floor. Touch the soles of the feet together, open your hands, spread your fingers, inhale. And as you're exhaling, lifting up for a bow to Navasana. Inhaling, reaching forward. So we're adding a bit of core strength here into our movements. You can, of course, leave your feet on the ground, just doing the arm movement. Or if you need any support, you could take your hands down towards the ground instead. We'll go for another 3. If you like, you can also extend your legs fully if you feel ready for that. Let's hold after the last one. Extending the arms facing each other. And then swinging your feet around as you find your way onto your hands and your knees. So a solid all 4 stance as you place your knees at hip distance, the hands at shoulder distance, utilizing Hasta Bandha as you press down into bases, heads of the fingers, leaning just slightly away from your wrists. As you tuck your toes under, extending on the next inhale, the right leg back and right out of your heel. And as you're exhaling, draw knee and nose together under your body, deeply rounding into the back. And as you're inhaling, extend the spine out through the heel, pointing the foot as you're curling in. Now, if this is what you want to do today, please go ahead. Otherwise, you might add a slight lift of the left knee off the ground on the exhale. Inhale, the knees back down. We're extending our spine. On the exhale, tuck in. Maybe that little lift. Inhale, go again. Exhale, curl it under. 2 more. And then landing your knee back down, allowing your toes to untuck, and on the out breath, stretching back towards the heels. Leave your hands glued to the mat, even if your buttocks doesn't touch, towards the heels. Just after that, lengthening through the body. And then returning as you breathe in onto all fours, tucking both toes back under to begin with. Notice the grounding through the hands again. We will extend our left leg back this time, leading again with the heel, long spine on that inhale, then pointing your toes as you breathe out, draw knee, nose together, under knees round your back. On the inhale, press out through the heel, lengthen the spine, exhaling, curling in. If you're happy here, please stay. If you want that little bit more, lifting the right knee just a bit off the floor as you're curling in. On the inhale, lengthen. On the exhale, round. Breath in. And breath out in 2 more if you choose to. Otherwise, resting might be a lovely idea. And once completed, bring the knees down. This time, leave your toes tucked under and take the knees off the floor if that's yours. Otherwise, you could stretch back into the child's pose. If you're in a down dog now, create some movement. Start to bend one knee, encourage the other heel towards the floor to pedal out your legs. And then pause momentarily as you soften your knees, reach the tail up and back, let the shoulders open so that the creases of the elbows are facing each other. And then start walking again, this time to the front end of your mat. As we come to the front end of the mat, you might roll yourself up slowly into standing using the hour breath. If you're already standing, don't worry about it. Let the shoulders roll back. Give them a little shrug. Maybe a movement again into open arms and rolling shoulders forward. As we find our stance on 2 separated feet. So allowing the outer edges of your feet to be parallel. If you're comfortable in a chair pose with the feet at hip distance, that might be your stance, or you might widen the stance a little bit today. I will ask you before we go into the chair to take an inhale as you lift your arms up, maybe lifting the gaze together with the arms. And as you're breathing out, we come into the first chair pose using fists as we're pulling in. And then inhale again as you're rising to extend. On the exhale, pulling in. Now, if this is good for you, keep going. Otherwise, you might lift up onto your toes as you inhale and lift your arms. And on the exhale, then pulling back in. So if that feels good, rise again, heels off the ground, and exhale as you're pulling in. Go for one more, breathing in and exhaling to pull, and now we're staying. Hands the widest stance. If you can reach there, either your hands resting upon your thighs or even your forearms. So you might come a little bit deeper if that's okay for knees, hips, and back. Keeping a long spine, and you might touch the palms together, using potentially a wider stance here. I would love you to just lift all your toes off the ground, maybe even have a look down towards them. And then lower down, little toe, one after the other, until also your big toes are grounded. Take a look at the arches of your feet and keep them active. While you're slightly leaning back to the heels, notice that the toes want to come off the floor again. And then slightly forward towards the balls of the feet. This is a subtle movement, but just rocking the weight back to the heels and then forward to the balls of the feet. Finding the middle ground between that to hold in. If you can, let your hips sink even further. Now lift your gaze, inhale, and then round the back a little as you exhale. Now let your legs softly extend. They don't have to be straight. Place your hands down onto the shins or the tops of the thighs. And take a breath in and lengthen to Ardha Uttanasana, or your half lift. And as you're breathing out, let your body slowly fold all the way forward. Your stance can remain this wide, or if you prefer, you can reduce it to about hip distance. If you feel confident and your knees are bent, so the belly is resting on your thighs, you could reach for the opposite elbow, allowing the extra weight of the arms to draw your spine long and downwards. Notice again your feet and where you position the weight. You could rock the weights carefully forward towards the toes and then slightly back towards the heels. And you could do that a few times, just noticing how does that impact the sensations in your legs and in your body in general. And it's likely that you feel the deepest lengthening when you're leaning forward, and you could stay there, allowing the arms, the head to help you lengthen your spine. Then let your hands fall down towards the ground. Take an inhale for a half lift or Ardha Uttanasana. And exhaling back into the full forward bend or Uttanasana. Inhaling while you're here. Engage lower abdomen towards tailbone as you breathe out to curl up into standing. Take an extension as you inhale, maybe also lift your gaze. And as you're breathing out, draw the hands down in front of your chest. Make sure that your feet are still parallel, and with that, the hips are facing forward. We will extend our arms out in front of us. We'll begin with a flexion in the right wrist, so pointing the right palm forward. Now engage into your core, that lower belly activation, your foundation, and pull back with a left fist without turning your hips. Inhale here. And as you exhale, we're changing sides. Inhale again. Exhale, push and pull. Make a fist with the hand that you're pulling back and turning the arm as well. So the elbow stays nice and close by the side. Breath out. Inhale and exhaling again. So go for one more to each side. Then let your arms gently release down by the sides. Noticing how you're feeling now. This will activate you, but we're also finding the balance between the push and the pull, and maybe even moderate strength in both directions. We'll repeat that movement in a moment. While you take an inhale now, lifting your arms, lifting your gaze, and then touching the palms together, soften your knees and fold down. On the inhale, your half lift. On the exhale now, stepping your right foot back about a meter out to hip distance. After Warrior One. As you keep your front knee in a bend, swing the arms up, take an inhale. And as you're exhaling, bring the hands down to the heart. So we've got the hip distance, stand still for warrior one. Hips the same as in mountain pose are facing forward. Now we'll repeat the movement. Reach your arms out in front of you. Flex again into the right hand. And as you're exhaling, pull the left elbow back with the hand of a fist. Inhale. Exhale, push and pull. So it would be much easier now to hold your balance as you are changing from one side to the other. Hold next time your right hand is forward. Take an inhale and lift your right heel off the ground. You can use your left hand on top of the thigh if this goes too deep. As you breathe out, bringing the right hand fingertips towards the floor. You're now welcome to also lower the right knee to the ground, otherwise keep it off the mat. And when you're inhaling, go for a twist and lift your left arm. Twist it, high or low lunge. Swinging the upper arm back and down to the mat. As you step the second foot back, and we're ending up in a plank or a kneeling plank. Encouraging the tailbone back towards the heels and bringing space in between the shoulder blades as we inhale to stay here. And with the exhale, keep your elbows nice and close, your core on, lower down all the way towards the mat. A cobra as you take your breath in, grounding down through the tops of the feet. As we hold here, draw the shoulder blades down the spine. Keep the elbows snugged in. Inhale again. And then exhaling, releasing your forehead to the mat. Push the floor away while you inhale. Your choice, feet flat or toes tucked under as you're extending hips towards the heels. Inhaling now, all fours, either to stay or to transition for an exhale to downward dog. Do feel free to bring movement into the down dog if that is beneficial for you. Otherwise, find your steady stance where the spine is almost in neutral, broad in the upper back, tiny curve in the lower back. With the next inhale now, let the right leg extend up and back. Watch the pelvis, so suggest to point out through the heel, the toes and the hips are in balance. Then point the toes as you inhale again. And with the exhale, bring your knee towards your nose and then trying to land the foot forward between the hands. Come onto your fingertips now, lengthen through the spine in this lunge. Encouraging the right hip a little bit back, the left heel towards the back. And then let's land our left heel down towards the ground. Bring the hands, both of them in between the feet, and start to move the body forwards and backwards. So bringing some movement and mobilization through the legs and the hips. You can let your upper body go wild as well and bring some movement in here. There's no need for structure in this movement. And when you're next inhaling, just relax your upper body down in the center towards the floor. And when you're exhaling, use your lower belly muscles and roll up from that center right into standing. Both legs long as you inhale, reach your arms up towards the ceiling. And then as you're breathing out, bring both arms forward, but bend your right knee. So forward is towards the right knee. Sorry for the lack of direction there. So what I'd ask you to do now is reach forward with the left hand and then pull it back as you breathe out and extending the arms. Let that left arm now wrap behind your back. So we're still like in a warrior two, and you would bring your gaze forward towards your right hand fingertips. As you inhale now, reach forward with the right hand. And as you breathe out, scoop along the floor. The back knee will bend as we bring that in, and then we're bringing the hand across and reaching back out into the warrior. So on the inhale, reach forward. On the exhale, scoop. Bring the arm through and release again forward on the exhale. We'll do one more round. Inhale to reach. Exhale to scoop. Inhale to cross through the chest and out breath to extend again. Take the arm from behind, lift the back heel, take an inhale to reach up into high lunge. And on the out breath, bring the hands down and step the left foot forward. Inhaling, Ardha Uttanasana, half lift. Exhaling, full forward fold. And you can push off your feet this time as you inhale, lift your arms. And then bringing the hands back down towards the heart center. I will just change directions, you don't have to. As we're inhaling, lifting the arms again. Soften the knees as you breathe out, fold forward. On the inhale, come to a half lift. And on the out breath, just stepping your left foot back. Take it back to about 1 meter and out to hip distance, ground to the heel. Front knee is in a bend. As we're lifting up for a warrior shape, breathe in. Breathe out, bring the hands down in front of the heart. Have a bend in the left knee, ground down through the right foot. And let your arms on the next breath extend forward. Now we come back, the flexion in the left wrist. And on the out breath, make a fist with the right hand and pull your elbow back. Inhale. Exhale, use your firm stance and swap sides. Inhale. Exhaling, push and pull. Next time, the left hand is reaching forward. We will pause. Your measure of support might be to bring the hand down as you lift through the back heel. Inhale. And when you're exhaling, let your left hand fingertips touch towards the floor. Your choice of lowering your knee down as well. And with the next inhale, the right arm might lift. As you're finding your twisted lunge with or without the knee off the floor. Next, let your arms swing back down by the side of the foot and step back onto all fours. Or we might lean straight forward into Kumbhakasana or the plank shape. Your knees can remain on the floor, but you might choose a full plank here. In both cases, your tailbone is drawing back towards the heels and you're pressing out between your shoulder blades. Now put a smile on your lips. I'm aware that we're practicing strength. And with the out breath, keep your elbows by the sides and gently lower down onto the floor again. You might choose to untuck your toes. Lengthen your arms along the side body. If you feel that's appropriate, stay here, or you could interlace your hands behind your back, lengthening the arms down. Your choice to keep feet grounded or lift them as well into Sapasana, or the snake as we draw the shoulder blades back here as well. The arms lengthening down the back or even lifting. Keep reaching out through the toes or the balls of the feet if your legs are lifted. Otherwise, press down through the tops of the feet. One more breath. And then release all the way down onto the mat. Take your hands back down by the sides of the lower ribs. Push into the mat as you're inhaling. And with toes flat or tucked, buttocks back to the heels and a big stretch. Keep the arms glued down or the hands glued down to the floor. And your choice from here to return onto all fours or go into downward facing dog. As we inhale, let the left leg lift up. Press out to the heel of the foot, toes are pointing down. And when you next inhale, point the toes. On the exhale, draw the knee towards the chest and land your foot forward or help it there. Ground down through the right heel and let your hands come in between the feet. Then start to move the body forward and back, mobilizing again on this side. It might feel a little bit more loose now. It might not. When you're next inhaling, let the upper body hang down towards the ground. And when you're breathing out, slowly rolling up to stand, straighten your legs initially and take a breath in to lift through the arms. And then while you're bending your left knee, turn the body and take both arms over towards the left. So we've got a warrior two stance. And we will breathe out and extending the arms backwards. Only to wrap that arm gently behind our back. Here comes the movement again. While you're inhaling, reach forward towards the left hand. And while you're breathing out, scoop along the floor, bend your right knee. Inhale, brush the left hand across the chest. And exhale, reach forward again. No need to rush here. Inhale, reach. Exhale, scoop. Inhale, brush. Exhale, return. One more. Inhale, reach. Exhale, scoop. Inhale, cross. And exhaling, extending. While you take your arm from behind, also lift through the back heel, reaching the arms up on an inhale for a high lunge. And when you're exhaling, bring your hands back down onto the mat. Stepping the foot forward, inhaling, half lift. And exhaling, come into a forward fold. Use the feet to push off from and reach your arms up on the inhale. And then bring the hands back down to the heart on the exhale. Let the shoulders soften down. I thought we might isolate the half moon today. So if you're usually using a block, which I oftentimes do, because that makes the posture a little bit more accessible. If you feel your balance is rather challenged, or even if you're just after a deeper opening, I suggest to lean yourself against the wall. So I will demonstrate it with the wall. Please feel free to do that freestanding. I'm aware that that is more challenging for the balance. I will start with my right foot pointing towards the block and the right side of my body towards the wall. So as I said, you can do that with or without the wall. Bring a bend into the right knee. Let your right hand touch onto the block. Let the left hand come into the side of the waist. And you would then shift your weight to the right foot, lifting your left leg up straight and starting to turn. So the hips are beginning to stack and you can roll the left shoulder backwards to stack over the right. If you're leaning against the wall, you might have solid support here. In that case, just be aware that you're using your standing leg wisely and that the muscles around your knee joint are engaged. You could, if this feels all right, extend your left arm as well. And you could also roll your gaze upwards. If you're practicing this against the wall, you might be reasonably comfortable here. Take a breath in. And when you're breathing out, bending your right knee again, land your left foot. Now let's take our block up. As we extend both legs, reach the arms up. So you've got a chance to swap your block around as we're releasing the arms. Now we'll practice the same towards the other side, whether that's freestanding or against the wall. So beginning with your left toes pointing towards the block, the left hand is on the block and the right hand begins in the side of the waist. Your stance is apart and we're leaning towards our left leg now. So to lift the right leg off the floor, extend the right leg, have it long. Bring a flexion into the foot and start to turn your toes into the open side, as well as beginning to stack through the hips. And you could gradually roll your shoulder back. And if you're feeling confident here in your balance or against the wall, you might want to lift the right arm. Your choice, taking good care, practicing moderation. As you find your stance is solid through the left leg, using the muscles of the leg to stabilize, even if you're challenged in the balance. And we will release again by bending the left knee, landing the right foot. Straighten your legs, reach your arms up towards the ceiling. You might still hold your block in the hands. Now let's turn the feet to be parallel in this wider stance. And as you're breathing out, you might take the block down in front of you. You might even want to use it, maybe for your hands, maybe to rest the top of the head down. Wide-legged forward bend, Asarita Padottanasana. Your hands would rest underneath your shoulders, ideally, or on the block. And then just lightly elevate the shoulders back into the sockets. Engage a little bit more into the lower belly and let your weight lean forward within the feet. With or without a support here, stay for 2 more breaths. Nice, long, slow exhalations. When you completed those breaths, lengthen your spine on an inhale. You can remove your block, heel and toe your feet in, and bring your knees down onto the ground. Coming to stand up on your knees. Allow them to be at about hip distance apart. If your shoulders feel sore, you could practice with your arms out wide. Otherwise, could you bring your hands and interlace your fingers behind the head? In any case, make sure the shoulders are soft. Now keep the tops of the feet on the floor rather than toes tucked under. Embrace the lower belly and encourage that towards your tailbone. And then as you're breathing out, just leaning back, not arching back, leaning back. And as you inhale, rise again. So we will strengthen our core by doing so, as well as the quads. As we inhale, we're standing up on our knees, and on the exhale, core is on as we're leaning the body back. Let's practice that for only 2 more. When you come back up, reach up as well as you inhale, and then let your arms circle out as you exhale. Take your feet over to the right while you sit down towards the left. Now we will repeat something that is the hands behind the head. And you may swap the interlace if you feel this way inclined. Now, while you're breathing out, draw your elbow down towards your feet. And as you inhale, come back to center. And on the exhale, repeating. Let's do 3 more. When you completed them, release the interlace. Circle your fingertips down behind your back. I need to go away from the wall. And start to lean into a boat as you swing your feet out to the front. Just a little core strength in between. And then take your legs over towards the other side. Reach your arms up, inhale. Interlace the hands one last time behind your head. Breathe in while you're here, and then exhale and squeeze your elbow back down towards your feet. Other side. Inhaling, come up. Exhale, elbow down towards the feet. 3 more. As you come back into the center, let your arms release. Bring the fingertips once more behind. You could just bring your feet to the floor, or you could end up in another boat. We'll find our way down towards the ground. Boats can have their feet on the floor as well, as we're lifting the arms on the inhale, and then very slowly releasing the body down. Giving your knees a good squeeze into the chest when you're landing. And there's a potential to just rock the body from side to side. Before we drop ourselves into Shavasana, and that's just a way of saying we come to rest. Let our arms and legs extend towards the ceiling. Let the shoulders, the hips deeply ground towards the floor. You could attempt Prana Mudra and touch your thumbs to the pinkies and ring fingers while extending into a V shape with the index and middle finger. And then starting to move through the arms and through the legs. If you do this quite excessively, you will deeply strengthen all over your core muscles. If you feel you want to do less, that's very welcome as well. Then pause. If you still want some strength, release the flat palms down underneath your buttocks, flexing your feet, and as you're exhaling, draw on the lower abdomen and slowly lowering both legs down towards the floor. Not suitable, please bend your knees. Then you step your feet down onto the ground, let the arms open out towards the sides. And then either step your feet out wide and let your knees drop in for a constructive resting pose, Or let your legs extend out for full Shavasana. Let the shoulders soften down into the ground. The eyes close or your gaze steady against the ceiling. Allowing your body a deeper rest. And while you become aware of the body slowing down, well, you might find the weight of the body now against the floor. Your breath might still be a dominant sensation. As usual, please feel free to just follow the breath. There's no need to do anything. A helpful method for evaluating the quality of a sense experience is to examine how well you are able to digest it. Robert Swoboda points out in one of his books that digestive problems are not limited to the stomach or small intestines. We also digest experiences in the mind. And here are signs that Swoboda suggests indicate poor mental digestion, or in other words, overindulgence. Coming back to that idea of moderation or Brahmacharya. So signs for poor mental digestion are lack of mental comfort after ingesting your desired sense object, whatever that might be. During the digestive process, your mind feels jaded and full. Unwelcome emotions are produced by your experience. Your experience is repressed or purposely hidden. It cannot be effortlessly retrieved from memory or willingly communicated to others. Your sleep or dreams are disturbed by your experience. These signs give us a glimpse of how the mind can be negatively affected by sense pleasures. For example, discomfort often accompanies an overdose of graphic TV violence. Even a little celebrity gossip can leave the mind feeling jaded. And you might be hesitant to admit that you spend 3 consecutive hours playing computer games. Mental self-observation is the key to recognizing the realities of our experience. Maybe this little identification of mental challenges or indigestion gives you a good idea of what you might want to focus on for the rest of the week. Allowing yourself now to begin a deeper breath. Starting to move, maybe gently. Giving yourself a good stretch. And then returning your body to an upright, seated position when you're ready. We'll take a deep breath once you're seated and reach the arms back up. And then draw our hands down and rest the thumbs on the forehead for a moment. Maybe setting the intention of avoiding overindulgence of the mind. So place our hands to the lips. Might start using less words. Avoiding an overindulgence in what we share and what we take in. As we bring our hands back down to the heart space and maybe lightly bowing the head towards the heart, connecting more deeply to our inner wisdom, where we know all of this anyway. From that place of knowing, we're extending to each other. Namaste.